Ichigo awakens by Talach, chapter 28, gathering allies in Karakura town. The group were making their way out of the Dangai, jumping out of the portal between worlds in the dark night of the living world. As the wind tore at them with their ever increasing descent, they all remained calm. Only one person said anything. Satin cushion, I reject, Orihime whispered as her shield barrier activated beneath them, giving them an easy landing from their jump, coincidentally beneath them, coincidentally avoiding whatever it was Urahara had planned as something passed beneath them. Ah! They heard the eccentric man groan as he settled down on the glowing barrier. Urahara was next to them on his own flying carpet device. I was ready to give you all a ride. It's been a long day, Kisuki, Ichigo said, walking to the edge of the barrier. And I'm not done yet. Yamamoto wanted me to gather everyone. Urahara lowered his head in a rare moment of seriousness. Aizen escaped, didn't he? He said, knowing before he asked. The look Ichigo had gave him all the answer he needed. Fine, have them headed to my shop. I'll need to start making plans. His student nodded before jumping off Orihime's barrier and charging straight for the Visor's warehouse. Could I get a ride to the hospital? Uryu asked, the truth of his situation already known amongst his friends. My father wanted me to report to him after coming back. I can take you, Uryu, Orihime chirped, ready to help her friend. Sora is still supposed to be visiting our aunt, so there shouldn't be anyone home right now. And I live nearby her place, so we'll accompany you, Toski added while Sado got up from his place and went to the edge. Everything all right, Sado? Uryu asked, feeling a certain tension from the giant. I'm going for a stroll, he said before dropping off the platform, still high above the suburban building of that part of Kurakata. I worry about that guy, Uryu said. Soon the Soul Reaper mentors separated from the spiritual aware humans as they both had their own destinations. So, what did happen with Aizen exactly? Urahara asked his old friend as they flew towards the Shoten. He got to Rukia and removed what you put inside from that Gikai, Ryuichi responded, and then he tried to kill Ichigo. Huh, Urahara hummed and thought, that was a risky gamble, but it looks like it paid off. With Chad, Chad took his time getting home, needing to clear his head. Finishing his mission of placing whatever those tags were all around society was not enough, and his mind was still like a raging storm from the battle of that Sokuku Hill. He made a promise. There was one thing about that promise that he absolutely had to do. I'll watch your back, and you watch mine. And he couldn't even do that. Ichigo was almost killed when he wasn't there. He was too slow. Ichigo was almost killed when he was there. He was too weak. His powers seemed to be growing every day, but what was the point to them if he couldn't keep his promise? He looked down at his hands, his large, strong fists that helped him for so long, that he used to help others. When he needed them to succeed the most, they failed. He was too weak. Uryu crippled his own power to pick up the slack, and Ichigo almost died because he couldn't help him. Chad never felt so weak, so pathetic in his entire life. It was a good thing he could keep his stoic facade, because he would be raging at his friends and crying like a child, the last thing they needed. With a single roar of anger, he threw one punch and made a large crater and spiderweb crack in a concrete wall. His right fist didn't even have a scratch on it. That was impressive display, came a voice from the darkness, but I doubt punching rocks will help you strengthen your powers. Chad looked around cautiously. Whoever was talking knew about him and his abilities. That put him on edge. If you want to fix that, to train your powers, we can help. A piece of paper fell from above with an apartment key card and a phone. The card said, Welcome to our section with Ichigo. He moved quickly, flash stepping as quickly as he could through the city to reach his destination. A single warehouse, hidden from sight behind a barrier beyond time and space to anyone unaware of its existence. Ichigo reached the building within the glowing force field and touched, letting the ripples open a pathway for him to pass through. He went into the building to find each one of the visors ready and waiting for him in the ruined building of the warehouse. You made it back, Shinji said, pleased to see the young hybrid once more. What's the word, kid? Ichigo reached into his jacket to pull out the message from the captain commander. He's happy to know you're all alive, and embarrassed that thing has got so bad, he said, throwing the folded envelope to the unofficial leader of the Visors. That is, an unofficial letter of pardon, personal apologies, and summons back to Soul Society so we can all plan out our next move, Ichigo told him as each of the former captains and lieutenants looked over the paper to confirm the message. Good to know the old man was actually willing to listen, Kensai said as they all dropped down to the ground. Let's go, gang, he said, leading the group as they moved to return to their old home. Hiyori was grumbling about lousy soul reapers and stupid Kiski and other things that pissed her off. She really doesn't play well with anyone, does she? Ichigo asked, watching them all head for Urahara's shop. The only person I remember her actually getting along with was her previous captain, Kirio Hikifune, Shinji explained. I think Unohana copied her in the way she interacted with her squad, like a mom to a group of kids. Then Kiski shows up, seems completely lazy and untrustworthy, changes everything about the squad by making the Research and Development Institute and freeing Marudi from his prison cell. He replaced her mother figure and changed everything about her division, and she didn't like it. What happened to her? The hybrid asked, never hearing much more than the necessary about their own past. After she invented the Geekin, she was promoted to Zero Squad and left without a word. The former captain said, the Royal Guard of the Soul King, one of the most elite groups, if not the highest ranking under the Soul King himself. Ichigo was shocked, hearing the news and wondered what kind of beings they must be to personally guard the Soul King. You think Aizen could beat them? Ichigo asked again. Shinji paused as he gave the question serious thought. If Aizen has his way, he'd be unstoppable. As it is now, he's just shy of that. In Karakura Hospital, Ryukin's office. He was going over some final papers and reports, documents needed to keep his hospital running, when his personal secretary told him that his son was here to see him. He was clearing out some last-minute necessities to get out of the way. His son returned from battle in society, most likely powerless. It was the circumstances as to why he removed the sonic glove that interested him more than anything else. His child entered the office, looking downcast as could be expected. Father, the boy greeted, some traces of nervousness and defeat evident in his tone. Uryu, Raiken suspected. I see you used the let's still. I had to, Uryu said. There was an uncomfortable silence as Uryu sat down in the middle of his office. Tell me what happened, the stern father ordered. Start from the beginning. After we got out of the Dangai, Uryu told him everything. When they infiltrated the Serite, separated, Urihime handling much of the Lesser Soul Reapers to meet Mayuri Kurosachi. He killed grandfather, him and hundreds of our kind. I won't lie, I wanted to get revenge, he said, looking at the cross hanging from his wrist. I wanted to rip off the glove and destroy him, hit him with all the power I could muster with the Let's Steel, but I couldn't. I couldn't waste my power for revenge when there was nothing to gain from it. His hand dropped limply to his side. Grandfather's dead for good, and I can't focus on something that would just make me feel a little better. I still beat him, but I didn't kill him. Then what made you remove the Sendai glove? Ryukin asked, a shadow of a smile gracing his lips at his son's judgment. Our enemy, Aizen, he had Ichigo outnumbered and ready to kill him. I needed power to stop that and save him. Uryu said, the weight of failing to stop Aizen coming down on his shoulders once again. So you threw away your powers just for the chance to save your cousin? He asked, making Uryu nod. Ryukin raised himself from his seat and went to his son, giving him the first warm embrace from him in the longest time. It's easy for anyone to say that they would do with their powers, but few actually have the strength of will to give up their power, he said, squeezing a little tighter on his child. When he pulled away, Uryu looked at his father like he was staring at another person. You've made me proud of you as a father and as a teacher. You are ready for the next stage. But father, I've lost my powers, Uryu said, still in shock at the man's actions. No, they're crippled, the older Quincy stated. They can, and we will, restore them. I want you in the training room first thing tomorrow morning, he told his son, making him brighten up at the prospect of gaining his powers back. Uryu was just about to leave when his father told him one last thing. Make sure to visit your mother, Uryu. I'm sure she'll be glad to see you. His son nodded and ran off. With Orihime, the bubbly barrier maiden skipped her way back to her small apartment, eager to take a relaxing bath and wait for her brother to return from the aunt's place. She became cautious when she found her door unlocked. She opened the door and moved slowly, focusing her hearing as much as she could to catch whoever might still be inside off guard. Something is going on, but it's not of any concern, she heard her brother say, feeling relieved that it was just her brother being home. She decided to give him a little surprise. She crept along, ready to pounce, when his conversation put her on edge. Orihime doesn't need to know. Not yet. Her friends have everything handled. Yes, her guardian spirit have awakened, but she's fine for now. Her brother knew about the spiritual side of things. He knew about about her powers and her friends. I'll take care of it when it becomes an issue. Okay, I'll tell her you love her. Bye, Oba-chan, he said, hanging up. He slowly made her way into the kitchen and exposing herself. Orihime, where have you been? I was. She trailed away, seeing this a strange haze around her brother's body. The air around him was shimmering like something was there but invisible. Hanging out with Ichigo and Tatsuki, she recovered. They went up into the mountains with Yurichi sensei and they needed a cook, she said with a smile. Sora nodded as he accepted her excuse. They say the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And dear Ichigo, to you with your cooking, and make sure you deal with Tatsuki works out, he said, pushing her to be more aggressive with her boyfriend. "Mm, don't embarrass me, Oni-chan," and she pouted, heading for the bathroom. Auntie sends her love, Orihime, he called after her as she left. Looks like she's gotten much stronger, he said, speaking to the being that was hidden from sight. She's noticed you. I guess we should get started sooner rather than later. The sound of a person hissing was the only response. Kurosaki Clinic. Ichigo returned home to find his father already in his Shinigami form with Shikakusho and ragged Hiyori over his left shoulder. He also was smoking a cigarette, surprising his son when he already had his one smoke for the year. When Ishin saw his son, he took one more drag of the tobacco stick and threw it to the ground, stepping on it to extinguish the smoldering embers. Yuzun Karun will be joining us when we heard to Soul Society, he said, walking up to his son. They wanted to meet their Shiba cousins and get stronger faster. They went to Urahara's the moment we felt your return. He then pulled his son in for a hug. Ichigo slowly returning it. I'm so sorry that you had to fight him, Ichigo. You were not ready for that kind of opponent. Maybe not, Ichigo conceded, but now I have a milestone to reach, and our next fight will not end so easily in his favor. Ishin let out a hearty chuckle. That's my son, he said with a grin as they separated from each other. So how were things back in Soul Society? He asked as the father and son made their way to Urahara's meeting place for all Shinigami in Kurakara town. Remember that white-haired third seed of yours? Ichigo asked after thinking for a moment. He became the captain of Squad 10. Ishin let out a small cheer of approval for his former third seed taking over. He was the only one that ever did the paperwork while he was a captain. After Aizen defected, the lieutenant of Squad 5 is in a chaotic state at his betrayal. Ah yes, yes, Momo Hinamari, Ishin said, remembering the smaller and more vague details from his past. I remember her following him around like a lost puppy. She's not going to like Shinji taking back his old position. Oh yeah, he used to be Squad 5's captain, didn't he? Ichigo recalled. What do you think is going to happen anyway? Well, most likely the former captains will take back their former positions, Ishin reasoned, because of circumstances like the need of more soldiers and having people that can lead them. The old man might plan something out. They finally reached Urahara's shop, where Ichigo was glommed by both of his little sisters. Oni-san, Ichini, they cried as they hugged him to near death. Can you tell they were worried? Ishin asked sarcastically, the assembly of former captains and lieutenants smiling at the display. This is so great, Yuzu cried in joy. Oni-san's back. We're going to see more family, moms. Still at the hospital, Karin said quickly, covering her sister's mouth. Resting, she wouldn't mind a visit first. Right, Dad? Karin said, talking through clenched teeth. Yes, go visit your mother, Ichigo, Ishin said, catching on to what his tomboyish daughter was trying to convey. Don't worry, we'll wait. Okay, Ichigo responded, feeling a little concerned by the way his family was acting, but he wouldn't mind seeing his mother again. Seeing her alive, comatose but alive because of Urahara's assurance, kept him from ever being completely depressed. So now he made his way for the Kurakara Hospital. Masaki and Kanai's. Oh, Ichigo, the two cousins met up in front of their mother's room and a home for the past several years. How are things on your end? Well, everyone is ready to return to Serete, and my dad is taking my sister to see Gukaku, Ichigo told the Quincy. How did Ryukin take you losing your powers? He said he was proud and that tomorrow morning we were going to work on restoring them and my advancement in training, he said, earning a surprised look from Ichigo. Yeah, apparently there is a way to restore my powers. Probably gonna put my life at risk, but I'm committed. He held out his fist to his cousin. You won't get rid of me that easily, it seems. Ichigo smirked and returned the fist bump. I wouldn't have it any other way. The two shared another smile as they opened the door and immediately froze. Hello, Uryu. Ichigo, the two mothers said to their sons. End of chapter 28. Ichigo awakens by Talach, chapter 29. Truth revealed. Truth revealed. Karakura Hospital. The two boys stared on in shock, disbelief of what was before them. Years of coming into this one room, seeing the same heartbreaking scene of their mothers in what could be described as a living death, only to now find something different the moment they opened up that door. Neither one of them could remember how many times they dreamed of this one moment, and how much they were torn between refusing it as reality and accepting that their long-time wish came true. For the mothers, they drifted in and out of awareness and slumber, feeling and knowing the world around them, but unable to tell their family how much they loved them, how much they wanted to comfort them. The belief that they could return to their bodies for the could return to their families kept them going through the hell as they remained trapped in their bodies for years, powerless, immobile. The greatest solace was the few moments they were dreaming and watching their families grow and be happy. Come here, Masaki said, holding up a hand. My little protector. Let mother see you, Uryu, Kanai said. The two boys felt their bodies move, not under their own control, but out of automatic reaction, each slow step quickening slightly until they reached their respective mothers. The moment those hands reached their faces, they became aware of the tears streaming from their eyes. You grew up so strong and handsome, Kanai said, remembering her husband telling her about their child with evident pride. Ichigo, Masaki said to her firstborn, I'm so sorry for leaving you. She hated seeing how much he had struggled. Once a happy, gentle boy, now a teen who had endured so much. Thank you for protecting your family. Just like the two cousins, the men that fought for their lives a day earlier went back to being little boys in front of their mothers, crying out in joy and relief to have their mothers return to them. Urahara shop. The two spent hours crying their hearts out as the mothers comforted and reassured them that they were awake, a promise that did not last too long as they woke up that morning and spent much time and energy reconnecting with their families after so long. For Ichigo and Uryu, it was more than they could ever ask for the Ryukin for it was more than they could ever ask for, and Ryukin assured them that they will return home in time, sleeping for years, even in a stasis that retained their bodies and health from the day they went into the damned sleep, damned some recovery time. They could be able to return home after a month of physical therapy and readjusted to the present world. Uryu went home happier than he had been in years. Ichigo had some more work to do and felt ready for anything. All right, Urahara started as he and Tessai opened his Senkaimon. Seeing as Yuzu and Karin still don't have a spirit bodies, they'll have to go through the spirit conversion gate. Ishin will take them through while the rest of us go with Ichigo, who I hope can use Garganta at this point. Otherwise, this is just going to be harder. I've got this, Urahara, Ichigo told him. That being said, I would like the assist Zangetsu, he told his blade as the sword spirit merged with him to grant a final control. Everyone ready? He asked, his body becoming slightly warped. He saw the many nods of approval as Tessai opened the Senkaimon and Ichigo ripped open a portal through dimensions. All at once, everyone dove into their respective pathways into Soul Society. West Rukon, 1st District. The gateway ended in the same place it began when his son and friends traveled to Soul Society, a place that has not seen change aside from the faces for the past few decades he was living as a human. In his arms, he carried his two precious daughters as he stepped all the way through the Dangai. He gently set them down as they tried to recover from the sudden acceleration and stop. Well, girls, he said with a nostalgic grin. Welcome, girls, to Soul Society. He couldn't deny that it felt good to be back to his old home. The rustic familiarity of the Rukon district, the mix of medical and advanced technology. But there was one thing wrong. This place sucks, Karin said bluntly, and she couldn't argue against it either. The modern living world was better than society. He already missed the modern conveniences of the other world. Karin, that's not very nice, Yusu scolded. Sure, this place seems like a downgrade, but I bet there's no fighting and everyone's happy. I don't want to say this, Yuzu, but the only thing better for everyone here is that it's cleaner, Ishin said, losing his earlier cheer. Best case scenario is to become a Shinigami, which you two are guaranteed to have the potential for. Well, look who finally decided to show up. They heard a brash voice yell out. The three Kurosaki members turned to see Kukaku, Shiba, Ganju, and the retainers along with the emerging residents of that district. I haven't seen you in decades, Ishin, Kukaku said, walking up to her uncle with a big smirk on her face. It's good to see you too, Kukaku, like he was saying with a smile before Kukaku glared at him and threw a furious punch right into his face. Yuzo and Karen watched as the newly met cousin sent their dad flying with one of the meanest punches that they've ever seen in their lives. That's for letting us think you were dead, ya Jack! She roared at the man as he cowered in front of the raging woman. She's all that time worrying about him and he's off making a family, she muttered to herself before noticing the two sisters trembling at the fury of the Shiba matriarch. And you two must be Yuzu and Kaden, she said, adopting a more gentle smile before dropping to their eye level. Ichigo told me about you two. She gave them a warm, welcoming smile as she patted their shoulders. Nice to finally meet you two. I'm always glad to see new family. Name's Kukaku Shiba. Then why did you punch Gochin? And Kaden asked, as the two main attendants went to the aid of the once lost branch head of the clan. I said new family, Kukaku told her. I've known that lazy bum of an uncle for decades. She missed the surprised look of the twins at the bizarre notion of their hypocritic, hyperactive father ever being lazy. Speaking of which, sounds like raising a family finally kicked your ass in gear. You better not be treating these guys like you did your old division. How rude, Kukaku, he said in an over-exaggerated manner. I'm a father and a clinic doctor. I can't afford to be lazy. You better not be. She turned back to the twins. Sorry about that. I'm used to having to knock a few heads around to keep things running smoothly around here. She apologized to the two. Why don't we all head back to the manor and get acquainted? I know I have some things to discuss with your brother. Speaking of which, where is that strawberry? She asked as they looked around. Don't know, Kukaku-ni, Karin said, already taking the liking to the clan head. They did take another way here. I'm sure Oni-chan and the others are all right, Yusu said optimistically. Somewhere in Serete. I'm not sure which is sadder, Ichigo said as he and the rest of the formerly exiled Soul Reapers were held at sword point by dozens of Onminutsu ninjas ready to execute them. The fact that this happened or that I expected it to happen. Most of the visors kept their calm. Hiyori was about to rage until Hachigen put her in a keto barrier everyone called the timeout corner. Kiski was Kiski and Tessai was ready for a quicker getaway. Yoriichi left them to get the one person that could stop this from escalating. Well, you're early, they heard someone say from above. They all looked up to see Sorfon next to Yoriichi, standing on a building. But I think you should have used Senkaimon. Nice to see you too, Sorfon, Urahara called out lazily. The years have been kind to you, I see. Ichigo could see Sorfon eye twitch before Yoriichi put a calming hand on her shoulder. She sighed out in resignation, and Ichigo began to think he might have an ally when it comes to getting payback on the annoying mad scientist. By order of the acting leader of Soul Society, Captain Commander Yamamoto, you will be escorted to the First Division to discuss the return of the previous MIA captains and lieutenants. She declared as the ninja sheathed their blades and relaxed before vanishing from sight. You all remember the way I take it? Without waiting for any reply, she herself disappeared. She really doesn't like you, does she? Ichigo asked Kiski as the group began to head towards the First Division barracks. When I was first brought to be promoted to captaincy, she protested on the grounds that I was lazy and incompetent at my own job in the detention court. Urahara explained. She then stalked me for a while to dig up any dirt she could. Not only did Yuriichi dismiss all of her evidence, she thought Sorfona had a crush on me. Sorfona hates how much undeserved faith Yuriichi had in me, and probably blames me for her self-imposed exile when Tetsai and I were arrested. He spoke the last part with an odd seriousness that Ichigo had only seen when he said anything to do with darker parts of his past, only for him to wipe out his fan and hold it in front of his face. But it's okay. I'll be sure to apologize to her for developing a crush on me, he said with a chuckle, only for Soifon to appear out of nowhere with the most pissed off expression Ichigo had ever seen on anyone and slammed her foot into his face so hard that there was a shockwave that sent the blonde man flying through the walls. I never had a crush on you, you lazy good-for-nothing lunatic! She roared with venom dripping from her tone. The entire group was watching with their eyes bulging out in shock and terror at the petite ninja. Yeah, he deserved that, Shinji said, as everyone else dismissed him for his idiocy, except for Hiyori, who was cheering Sofai on. Hey, Soifon, Ichigo called out to her. You mind sending someone to the West Rukon? My dad is there visiting family. She regarded him for a second before nodding to someone as there was a flash of movement. Thanks, Captain's Assembly. It was a time of happiness for most of the assembled captains. Allies long thought lost returned. Hiroku attempted to hug his former lieutenant, only to be met with a foot to the face and an actual happy greeting from Lisa. The rest of the former captains and lieutenants were happy to meet each other once again, until they had to put Hiyori back into her keto box when Mayuri dismissed the annoying monkey boy and tried to get Ichigo to agree being subjected to a series of experiments, both out of natural curiosity and to forget that he and Urahara were in the same room again. Ishin was showering praise on his former third seat. I was right to trust the future of the squad to you, Toshiro, Ishin said to the blushing captain as Ishin held him up like he used to many years ago. Please put me down, Captain Shiba, the young captain asked, still having respect for his predecessor despite his waning patience. Enough, Yamamoto called out, slamming his cane on the ground and forcing everyone's attention on him. First off, thank you all for gathering here once again. I apologize for the actions of 100 years ago and hold myself as personally responsible. The fault's mine, Yamamoto, Shinji spoke up. I made Aizen my lieutenant because I never trusted him and I never recognized the difference between him and his illusions. But I just as quickly condemned all of you for things out of your control. Do not take my failure on your shoulders, the old commander said, the weight of another mistake weighing on his shoulders. Before we continue, it's safe to assume you know everything. It already began setting up a defense measure, Kiseki said happily. Mayuri, did Chattanooga place all those tags like I asked them to? Yes, though I don't know why you made over 1 billion Kido seal tags meant to seal away Quincy's all over Soul Society, Mayuri said, not privy to Ichigo and Yama's conversation from earlier. Simple, Mayuri said, turning serious as he pulled out a detonator switch. The Vandendyke watched from the shadows, he said before pulling the button. A thunderous crack shot the entirety of the Soul Society as the brightest light consumed the realm. Silburn, the Emperor and his most elite guards were watching the meeting of their hated enemies, dismissing the gathering as a small roadblock they would inevitably be ready for. That was before the two scientists revealed a ploy they were not ready for. The Vanderreich watched from the shadows, Urahara said before pushing the button. Suddenly, the shadowy kingdom was engulfed in blinding light that lasted for what seemed like hours. When their sight returned, they could no longer find any connection to society. What happened? Yuobak roared. His minions grumbled about to try to find any answers, coming to only one conclusion. They were locked out of society and in a separate space. Captain's meeting, and that should buy us a few years, Urahara said after sight returned to everyone and people calmed down. Plenty of time to deal with Aizen before we have to worry about the Wandergleich. Very good, Yamamoto said approvingly, trusting one of the smartest men he's ever met. Maybe they'll strengthen in time after the whole Aizen thing ends. For those of you unaware, Ichigo's reason for meeting with me was to warn us about the return of the Quincy King, Yuaba. When he returns, all life in creation will be at risk. Fortunately, we have a few more years to wait before they can attempt anything. Till then, we deal with Aizen. There were unanimous nods of agreement and a bloodthirsty grin from Kenpachi. With the Central 46 dead and a war looming over our heads, I am assuming martial law and assuming full authority over Soul Society. With that authority, I offer the captain position of Squad 3, 5, and 9 back to Captains Otoribashi, Hirako, and Mugurama, with double pay for the next century should they accept it. That sounds like a good deal, Kensai said, musing about how to keep Moshori out of his money stash. Yay, back to Kensai's official lieutenant, Mashiro cheered. Squad 9 still has a lieutenant, Toshiro said bluntly. Super Lieutenant Mashiro is back in action. Not that it affected Mashiro's mood in the slightest. You're really good with kids, Kensei, Ukitake said, chuckling slightly. Shut up, Jushiro, the vice grumbled. Hey, Captain Hirako, Toshiro called out to the reinstated captain. There's something I should warn you about. What, kiddo? Shinji asked, irritated the white-haired captain almost immediately. It's about your new lieutenant, Momo Hinamari. She practically worshipped Aizen and reacted less than well with his betrayal, he said, talking cautiously about his friend's infatuation. And now she's catatonic and refusing reality with every fiber of her being, just praying that Aizen will come back to his senses. Shinji asked bluntly. The guy nodded. That's not my problem. She's a lieutenant. She has a job I expect her to perform. If she can't, I'll find someone that will. I'm her captain first before anything else. If you're her friend, then you help her out. He said bluntly, shocking some people, but most acknowledged the harsh lesson. She's a lieutenant class Soul Reaper. She has to be a tough girl and should learn how to stand on her own. Toshido glared at the man, but it understood him on some level. He reacted in a similar manner when she was distraught over Aizen's fake death. Tessai and Hachigen may return to their command positions within the Kita Corps, Yamamoto continued, with a nod of acceptance from the two spellmasters, and in light of certain revelations from the Quincy, Urahara is given back his old position as captain of Squad 12. Mayuri looked like someone punched him in the stomach while Urahara laughed. Nice to be back, Lieutenant Mayuri, he said, making the mad scientist glare at him. Absolutely not, Mayuri yelled out in defiance. I refuse to go back to being your underling. And what revelations? For starters, I ordered you to stay away from Ichigo while he was recovering, but you repeatedly made trips to his room. Yama started, but Yuri tried to say something when the old man continued. The numerous times you arranged for the deaths of hundreds of Quincy that were under our protection, with much of that research now being practically outdated considering how your fighting with Uryu went. The complaints made by several of your squad that you used them as bombs when the only person that was killed on sight was still Ichigo Kurosaki, whom you were not even close to. Finally, you are a completely immoral sadist that was only made captain of Squad 12 because you were the smartest man at the time. Every day I weigh the options of putting you back in the maggot's nest and letting you rot. That did not deter Mayuri, who continued to protest while trying to defend his decisions. Ichigo, you can spare an arm, right? Urahara asked while the argument continued. Ichigo nodded and presented his right arm. Kisuke pulled out a glass tube big enough for Ichigo to fit his arm into and was sealed within, cutting off Ichigo's arm at the elbow. As Ichigo yelled out in pain, catching everyone's attention, Urahara tossed Ichigo's preserved severed arm to his new lieutenant. Here's an arm. Go play. You expect me to be content with? Mayuri growled before Ichigo's arm regrew from the stump at his elbow from a flare of black reishi. Amazing! Ichigo is a one-of-a-kind hybrid with Soul Reaper, Quincy, and Hollow abilities all rolled into one. Kisuke bragged. You quit your bitching and you can have as many samples as you want. But you began salivating at the versatile experimental gold mine that was Ichigo Kurosaki. He just needed to swallow his pride. I officially resigned my position in favor of being a second command, he said, cradling the container like a newborn baby. Not gonna lie, I'm surprised that worked, Urahara said, shocked that Mayuri accepted so easily. Don't think you can bribe me, Balti, Hiyori said, freed from her Kido prison. I'm not sticking around here. Then I leave my shop to you, Hiyori, Kisuke said dramatically. I set it up to be a mobile command center for the Shinigami in the living world. Hiyori simply shrugged, still hating the idea but wanting to help what friends she had. May we continue? Yamamoto growled, making everyone snap back to attention. Good. Now, in light of the coming war, we will need more soldiers, order, and swift action to be taken in the world of the living. Therefore, I'm creating 2 new squads. Squad 14 will be the Rukon force, keeping order in the districts and searching for individuals with the abilities to become Soul Reapers. Squad 15 will be the Living World unit, a squad solely for the living world, since we seem to be unable to deal with the problems there effectively. Kurokata Town seems to be the hotspot for this, so that's where Squad 15 will set up. I'll be the captain of Squad 14. Love volunteered. Ishin, you got a family, man. The only thing for me in that world is my precious manga, he said melodramatically and actually crying a little. Everyone else looked at him like he was an idiot, even Urahara. You know, we could probably set something up for you, Ichigo said, making the Star Afro-haired man shift mood immediately. Thank you, Ichigo, Aikawa called out. He hugged the hybrid and squeezed the life out of him. He finally let go after Kenpachi pushed him in the face pretty hard. Don't break him. Gonna fight him later, he said as Ichigo realigned his spine. Continuing, Yamato said, Captains Love and Hishin, you will have to build up your squads yourself later. For now, we need to know what we're up against. Urahara, what is the Hokuku? Urahara suddenly shifted back to his serious mode as he explained what his creation was capable of. The Hyokoku is meant to be able to break down the boundaries between Soul Reaper and the Hollow, granting one the power of the other and becoming that much stronger as a result. However, while training Ichigo, I did a few more experiments and discovered something frightening. One, the Hokaku was incomplete, and two, at full power, it could grant anyone their heart's desire. A cold unease came over everyone in the room. I have a suspicion that Aizen knows about the former because he may have created his own Hokaku and wanted mine to complete it, which is a good thing he never got it, he said, surprising everyone. But I saw Aizen tear it out of Rukia. Ichigo defended, leading Urahara to wave his fingers at the boy. I suspected Aizen would know that I would put the Hokaku in Rukia's being, but then I wondered, would he know because it was something I would do? Put the Hokaku in the body of someone that knew nothing about it and sacrifice that person heartlessly? Likely, so I did something I would never do unless I thought it would work, he said, pulling out a small vial that coated his arm and performed the same ritual Aizen did with Rukia, plunging his hand into Ichigo's chest. Have someone know about the power and dangers of it, instilling the desire to hide and seal it away, making it untraceable. He pulled his hand out to reveal the same black sphere Ichigo swallowed to become a Soul Reaper. This is where I hid the Hokuku. End of chapter 29.